One love, one love, one love, one love. One love.
Keep calm. It's your favorite.
Good evening,
DJ,
good evening, good
DJ
evening,
One
good
Love.
evening, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the real life with One Love show with One Love on tonight, this evening, right here at Comcast Channel 17. And we have a wonderful show on tonight. We're going to be having someone who's very close to me for this interview on tonight. And today just happened to be International Women's Day that I'm going to be talking to this beautiful young lady. And it's also International Women's Month as well. So we're going to have a great time with this show on today. I'm talking about none other than my sister, Stephanie Nesbitt, for her natural soul. She's a native Memphian, but she now resides in Nashville, Tennessee. She does a little bit of everything. She is a women wellness advocate, certified yoga instructor. She's an awesome mom and a beautiful wife and a great sister. So right now I want to get ready to bring her in, and I want to present to some and introduce to other my sister, Stephanie Nesbitt.
Hello. How
Y'all
are
make some noise
you?
for Hey, Stephanie.
Hey. How are you?
We're well. We're well. We were so happy to have you for our show. This is actually my first month in the show. You're my third person to interview. Well, I actually interviewed the same individuals on this same show twice because there was so much information. And who's know, this may be happening in the same way this evening. We don't know. We're just gonna let it go how it grow. So
All
we're gonna
right.
get this background music going, and we're gonna get right to the interview on this evening. So I've already introduced you, and just want to kind of break the ice and let them hear about you from you, and just go into a little bit of your journey and kind of introduce yourself at this time right now.
All right. Well, Lavelle, I've been knowing you a long time, all of my life, actually. So it's great to be here and support you, in any way I can fill in and step in for you. I am always here for you 100%. And as you said, I am Stephanie Nesbitt, aka Stephanie Salter. So that's what many people know me as. I do reside in Nashville, Tennessee, but I spent all of my childhood years from baby up until 17 years old in Memphis, Tennessee. Memphis is still home. I still say I live. I'm from Memphis when people ask me, so it will always be home. I'm a native Memphian through and through. When I talk, people hear it, so that's not a mistake at all. But as you mentioned, by day I am a corporate executive, so I work at Bridgestone, and I work in diversity and inclusion as well as in learning and development. So
Okay.
that's been my pathway for a while. My background is in information technology. So what brought me to Nashville is I attended Tennessee State University, and I got a bachelor's in information technology and education. Thought I was going to teach. Didn't go that route. Actually went the IT route. I worked in several different industries from banking to healthcare to manufacturing and retail. So it's been a journey. And within that journey, my personal journey was also in parallel lines, right? Being a woman, being changes. Many of our family and friends know, of course, I'm not sure, Lavelle, if your viewers know, but when I was a teenager, I was dealing with a lot of women issues, as we would call it, a lot of menstrual pains, a lot of cramping, just a lot of aches and pains, not really knowing. We lost our mom when we were fairly young teenagers. I was 14. So I didn't necessarily have that mom to go to and say, like, hey, what's going on here? Or what's happening here? Why am I feeling this and why am I feeling that? My dad did what he could, or our dad did what he could in those situations. But I think just not knowing a lot of the family history with women in our family of, these are things we don't talk about, not necessarily just our family, but women in general. And so as I'm matriculating through college and I'm progressing in my career and I'm growing into this woman that I am, I'm also dealing with um, lots of pain and just doctors telling me, oh no, you're not in pain. You should take this hormone, or oh no, you're not this. You should take this birth control pill, or no, you're not that. Really just not listening to me. And I didn't know any better. I wasn't doing any research, so every hormonal pill or birth control pill or shot or injection that was given. I was like, okay, well, if the doctor says it's going to be fine, it'll be fine. But as I got into about 25, that's when things started to not work with any type of medication, regardless of what it was, if it was birth control, if it was an injection, if it was this or if it was that, none of it was working. And I finally found the doctor, and I'll let you ask more questions, but kind of just going into it. And that doctor was able to just sit down and listen to me, and she was a Black woman. And so that's why I'm an advocate for women's wellness, especially Black voices, Black women, because from since we were brought over here on slave ships, we have always been the guinea pigs, right? You have the doctor of gynecologists who current doctors look up to now. And what he did is use slaves
Mm,
as his testing ground, right? So anything that we know about modern day gynecology started with this man saying, I'm going to use this Black body because they don't feel like normal people feel. We were considered animals, not, human beings. They don't
mm,
have the type of, they have high pain tolerance. They have this. And so when we do go to doctors and we do tell them about our pain, especially if it's not a melanated doctor, right? They
mm.
automatically think like when we say, oh, we're in pain, it's like, no, the pain can't be that bad. Well, if I'm telling you in pain, at least what I want you to do is listen and
Wow.
ask me and guide me to where that pain is. And so a lot more we could get into there, but I'll open it if you want me to go a specific direction, Lavelle, or where you want
No,
me
no,
to.
that's good because I was reflecting, um, probably right when Facebook Live kind of just came on the scene. It was kind of fairly new, and me and you just
Oh
kind
yeah,
of spontaneously went live on Facebook, and talking about my issues at that time, that happened back in the day, and then we talked
yeah,
about your issues, what you just shared with us, and there's so many women that deal with this thing privately and don't like to talk about it publicly, and so it's very imperative and important to say something and go get the help, and just what you shared on their brief little live, literally you start getting inboxes and people giving comments saying that they were going through the same thing, these women, and they had nobody to talk to. Some of their family members didn't understand and stuff like that. So it being that it is International Women's Day while we're talking, I think it's very profound. And you specifically said uh, melanated Black women, if you will, dealing with these situations. Do you think it's a reason behind that, or why uh, is that the Black woman goes through it more? Or is it, I know you changed your eating habits, you did some things like
yeah.
that. We'll try to get into that as well. But do you think it's something why it's like that?
Yeah, I honestly do, and thank you for bringing that all up back up. That Facebook Live was lit. I mean, it was just out the blue of so many people
Right.
just chiming in. I had friends saying you should pay people to hear this. It's such a passion, and my journey is, one that's not foreign to many, but as we know, many people don't talk about it. And since I've come out, with my story and to call a thing, I was dealing with endometriosis and fibroids, but there's also PCOS, a polycystic ovarian syndrome. There's also hormonal and thyroid issues that we deal with. And it's a derivative of many things. I'm not going to say it's just one thing, but we can start
Mm,
in one place. So when you start gradually, then you start to open up the awareness about other things you can do to contribute to your own healing and your own wellness. And so, what I think about when I'm working with women is first, there's this level of self discovery, right? Let's talk about what could be hindering you from your healing. Sometimes it could be
mm,
things of our past that we feel like we got to hold on to. We want to be a secret about it. It could have been rape. You could have had an abortion. You could have, been sexually active really early. And because we have grown in some of these Christian values, we feel that, oh, in
mm,
some way we deserve the pain that we're in, right? We deserve to go through this. But I really want women to focus on your deserving is of healing, right? Your deserving is of happiness. Your deserving is of being pain free. You deserve all great things, all wellness, all great things come to you. So those are conversations I had for myself, like, oh, I used to drink and I done smoked and I done did this and I did that. Maybe this is what I get for doing those things. And why would I put that on myself? Like, why would I
Right,
carry that burden of,
right.
because I did something, not knowing, right? Or being young or immature or not know what the future is going to hold, that I would consider myself less than, that I need to put myself in this pain. And I'm not saying every woman or women think that, but there is this place of discovery of why we feel like we have to suffer in silence, why we
Mm,
can't speak up. Maybe it's against, I don't want my mother to, I don't want my mom to feel like she didn't teach me something, or I don't want my family to be outed, or whatever the case is. I don't know. I've talked about openly that there are women in our family that can't have kids, and I don't know why. We've never talked about it to this day,
right.
but what I do know is that I wanted to make a change. And so the question you ask of, why is this common in Black women, and other women have it too, but why it's prevalent in Black women? I think one, not necessarily that it's genetics in genealogy, that may be a thing. I did learn later on that my mom did have endometriosis, but I think it's also in how we celebrate life, right? Whatever that celebration is, whether the celebration is of a homegoing celebration for a loved one who's passed, whether it's a celebration of a birthday or a graduation, what do? We eat, and we eat
Right.
well. We eat ribs and chicken. And if you're from Memphis, y'all know about Memphis, those Circle B smoked sausages, right? We eat all the
Whoa.
barbecue. People ask me all the time, oh, you're from Memphis. Where you go eat? Where you go rendezvous? I'm like, no, I go to my mama house, my daddy house, my uncle
Right,
house, right? My brother house. That's where we eat. That's where
right,
we get down in the kitchen. We cook. And that's love. We show love through food, because you got to think of the food deserts we lived in. You got to think of the scarcity that we had, that we took, the stomach of a hog, of a pig. We took the colon, the hoof, the head of a pig, and we ate it. Some places it's a delicacy now, but we do know that those things over time will be detrimental on life. And I've had many people like, well, my grandma lived until she was 90. Well, your grandmother wasn't eating an excessive amount of pork and fat and salt all the time, right? Because
mhm.
you probably only got one hog out of the year, because you only probably had one cow. You probably had a multi-generational family, meaning
And
multiple
they
families
stayed outside more as well too. We don't go outside these
outside
days,
more,
so
right?
we're
You
not
know,
getting enough vitamin D. So we can't really, we can't compare apples to oranges when you talk about that, because they was
yes,
active. They wasn't just
yes.
sitting down, with this new social media world and all this technology. So I had to throw that in there. So you really can't compare the two.
You can compare the two, and I'm glad you talk about that, because the pig and the cow and the chickens that they had were in the backyard. They
Right.
went in Kroger on the shelf, right? They
Hmm.
went in a farm, thousands eating upon feces, and where they sleep and eat and bowel movement is all in the same place, and they're eating lots of corn and wheat and fat to make them grow and injected with hormones. So there's a lot that goes into that. And one, I will say that I am not vegan, so I will say that I don't pertain to be vegan. Do I eat meat? No, right? But I like to give a distinction of veganism. There's all types of this veganism. There's pescatarian. There's lacto ovo. There's people that only do dairy and eggs, but they don't do anything else. There's now terms called flexitarian. So I just kind of be whatever tarian I want to be when I want to be, right? Um,
Right.
there's so many things. I could consider myself plant based, and in full transparency, and I'll get back to some other things here. But during the pandemic, I was so down on myself. I know we all were in just trying to be in survival mode, and I was trying to make all these healthy meals and stay in shape and do this and do that. I couldn't do it anymore. So I have fallen into, and I'm getting up out of it now because the world is opening more. The plant-based vegan mock food trap. They have vegan chicken nuggets and burgers and all these things that are really good, but it still does not give you the quality of life that you need, right? It's a
Right.
step, right? So if you're transitioning from meat, from a typical cow burger or turkey burger or something like that, and you want to transition to something that's a little bit healthier, you go into, well, I'm not going to even say healthier because that's not necessarily the term, but you're transitioning, right? You're trying to find something else that tastes similar to meat, but it's not meat. That's when
Right.
you go into, I just call out several brands. I don't endorse any brand that I mention in this. So we
Hmm.
don't own the rights to these brands. They don't pay us. These are no ads or anything. But like your Impossible Burgers,
Right.
your Beyond Meat Burgers, your Gardein, which and some of those even have eggs and wheat in it. If you look into it, or eggs and milk in them, although they say they're vegetarian, right? And vegetarian
Mm.
does include dairy, vegan does not. So there's a lot of different things that we have to read the labels. We have to really understand what the market is putting into our body, what big pharma is doing. So
Mm.
pharmacy is also in the grocery store. That's why we want to get out to our farmers markets as we can, or stay in the sections of the grocery store where you're leaving greens and your potatoes and your onions and all that you can pick out yourself,
Right.
versus going into those frozen areas. So I kind of got all off. So back to what you were saying about Black women and how is this for us. I think that's a lot of it, right?
Right.
I won't get it all into the topical parts of things that we put on our body that we're taught. That's another level to it. But in general, we relax our hair. And I'm not saying you should not get a relaxer. I'm not saying you should. But we have to think about our skin is the largest organ of our body. So
Mm.
anything we put on our skin, whatever it is seeping into our hormones, it's seeping into our endocrine system that actually is what produces the different hormones that you go through. So we love our Bath and Body Works, right? We love our
Right.
Vaseline. We love all these things that are minerals and petroleum jelly and all that. That's seeping back into the body. And for women, we have just a different genetic makeup than men. We
Right.
produce different hormones. Our body goes through a monthly cycle. So if you're not producing a baby, most likely you're going to have a menstrual cycle, and that's going to happen. And so there's a lot of things the body is going through that we have to prepare it to
Hmm.
go through that with ease. And, when I was talking about that self discovery part of it, then the next level is like more self awareness and self care. So now I'm getting the part I've discovered where the issue is coming from, or I've talked to the doctors that I trust. I've talked to my trusted friend circle. I've talked to the women in my family to get some medical history, or I've just done my own digging and research. That was me. So when I
Right.
finally found the doctor that listened to me, it was after I had already done so much research of this is what I think it is, but I don't know.
Hmm.
And thankful to her, she even helped me get on this journey of changing my eating habits, which was she was like, start with the Daniel fast. And she's like, she actually acts like she was taking her hat off. She's like, I'm not your doctor because I'm not a dietitian or a nutritionist. I am your friend. And what I'm telling you is let's start with eating. We'll do a
Right.
couple other things to see if it works. If not, let's do the Daniel fast. And she asked, had I heard of it? I was like, of course, churches do it all the time.
Mm.
You go through it and then you get off of it and you go right back to your own habits. I know a lot of
Right.
people are in Lent right now, right? So they're going through their 40 days without whatever that is.
Hmm.
And so we're familiar with that. But what do we do after?
Right.
What's the goal to maintain after the fact? For even myself, like I've fallen into the mock meat traps. My kids love the vegan chicken tenders. I'm not saying they can't have that or we won't have it, but it's been a crutch lately, and I know it's time to get back to more often having those, full plant-based meals and more black bean burgers made at home versus a black bean patty that's been in the freezer for a few months or weeks at a grocery store just for convenience. But convenience helps too. I'm not
Right.
against it. I'm sharing my journey where I am.
Right. So let me ask you. You branded yourself and gave yourself a brand,
Yeah.
or a name, if you will, to market yourself. And when you first shared it with me, I thought it was just so unique. And I think is it an acronym, the HE and the R, or is it just something that's like a continuation? But kind of
Yeah.
give us the background on why you call yourself Her Natural Soul.
Yeah, so I actually just added the acronym on this year because I was like, I don't want to leave men out. I actually have quite a few men that also reach out to me. Either it's for themselves, like, hey, how can I do this? Or maybe for, the woman that's in their life and they just want me to talk to them or, give
Hmm.
them some inspiration or things like that. So the H is for heal. The E is for, I think I said, let me think about it. I actually was writing a journal, so I don't forget. I think I did heal, evolve, and renew. That's exactly
That's
because
what.
they had the butterfly, right?
Right, right,
So
right,
we're
right, right.
healing, we're evolving. So you think about the butterfly in the cocoon, or as my daughter likes to correct me and say, it's a chrysalis. Butterflies don't have cocoons. So it's heal, evolve, and renew. We know when butterflies they come out of that cocoon or the chrysalis, they are renewed. They are something new. They are not who they were
Right,
because of this transition they made, this healing process they've gone through, so to speak, to be now what we love is a beautiful butterfly and not a caterpillar. So
right.
that's what I derived. And I had to think about it for a second because I went through quite a few different name changes um, as I
I
was
love it.
dealing with. Hmm. Yeah,
I love it. So, being from Memphis, you graduated high school, went right to Nashville. You've been
that's
in
Westwood.
Nashville, literally in Nashville since you graduated high school.
Yes.
So you've been there. What's it? 28 years now, maybe.
Oh, do me like that? I has it been 20? I thought it was 24. I
I
don't
may be a little bit over. I just jumped out there. A week. Ain't like I would just count like one, two, but
know.
I know it's been over 25 years that you've been in
Just
Nashville.
about. Yeah.
How was that transition, especially with everything that we went through as a family, uh, going to Nashville? And I know, just having the conversations, sometime back in the day, you was going through your transition, then you just would pop out that you're a whole lot more settled. Now you got a family, a husband, and two awesome children. So, kind of, if you can pack that all together, how that transition was and how it has evolved your life since you've been there.
Yeah, you kind of were breaking up just a little bit. It probably was just on my end, but I think I got the gist of it of just how
Okay, okay,
I made the transition to Nashville and, the
right,
different levels of life I've experienced since I've been here where I am now. I would say in Lavelle, I would hope you know this, but I'm not sure. My aspirations were not to go to college. I wanted to go to the Navy. For some reason, I thought that that would give me some stability and some, everybody calls me the emotional person. Oh, you're so emotional. I'm a crier. I may cry on this at some point. Who knows? So I'm thinking if I go to the Navy, one, I'm gonna be a dynamic swimmer, right? I'm gonna be this greatest swimmer. I've had this fear of water from the Bell knows. I had a tragic experience in Florida one year and almost drowned. And so water has been my thing. Like I'm gonna conquer this thing. Been to swim lessons, I don't know how many times, but one day, so I was like, if I go to the Navy, I'll have all these great things. And my dad was like, no, you're not doing that. You need to go to school. And so he's like, where's your sister going? And our sister Faith Ware, who we absolutely love and adore, she's still very much so my sister today. She was going to Tennessee State as well as a lot of my friends. I had known about college. We had visited colleges. I went to Westwood High School, so the one and only. I always want to represent the Longhorns,
right.
um, the Colonial Blue, right? So I I was like, okay. I just said, okay, I'll take the ACT. Whatever score I get. I did not study. I get it, and we'll go from there. So I left and went to TSU. Um, First year was amazing, right? But then I started having this guilt, like, of selfishness. Like, oh, I left my brother. My brother was Lavelle. You were sick at the time. And I was like, I moved off to college. I'm kind of like living this life, but I have this other world that's happening around me that I'm not sure if a lot of people in my school know what I'm dealing with. Leaving my dad, my grandmother, like everybody was like, oh, we proud of you, but come back home, go to University of Memphis. So my sophomore year, I did transfer. I actually transferred my sophomore year for University of Memphis. I went to orientation for about a week. I went to class, not one day. My first day of class, I walked on the campus and I said, this is not a HBCU. This is not a historically Black university or college. TSU just has this love and appreciation, and everybody you pass or see is speaking, and hey, how are you? And we dress a certain type of way, and we just have this type of decorum and proudness and astuteness about us. And I still met people from all over the world and all over the country here in Nashville, somewhere that I had never really visited, but maybe once um, in my childhood. And so, it was difficult thinking like, okay, well, I'll go back to University of Memphis. And then my awakening was, and Lavelle, no, you know this, coming home and Grandma Tane would be just pulling on me, like, come on, let's go to the grocery store. Let's do this. I was like, what you been doing when I'm not here? Like, how is life evolving? But I understood it, I was kind of that step in for her daughter, our mom, Joe Linda. And so she kind of just, you know, gravitated to me quite a bit there. And then, our other family, my grandma Salt and, our aunts and family there. But at one point, when I was walking on the University of Memphis campus, I called my guidance counselor here in Nashville at TSU. And I said, I need to get back to TSU. And she was like, why did you change your mind? You were so adamant about going home and helping your family. And I said, well, if I can't help me, I can't help them. And I knew that I would have probably not finished school. I probably would have not, or would have taken a while, right? I'm determined in all those things, but I knew I would have felt like, I need to work. I need to help my dad. I need to help my brother. I need to help my grandmother. I need to help, my family and whatever I need to do. I need to do that. And so coming back to TSU, one, it made me feel what I think we didn't fully get is, kind of childlike again. I got to be not an adult the entire time. I got to just have fun and be free and meet these great people and just see life from a different perspective. And it kind of just opened me up a little bit. So this is the choke up time, but I am not going to cry. So that was the first thing. And so I graduated. I had several major changes, um, like not necessarily life major changes that was going on too, but actually the direction I wanted to go in to complete my degree at Tennessee State. And so, I mean, I changed majors. That's why I tell everybody: just if you're gonna go, just go and get the experience, and then just start all falling together. Unless you're just one of those people who already know, like, I want to be an accountant, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a dentist. That's fine. That's perfect. I didn't have that guidance. As I said, I wanted to go to the Navy, so I didn't really know at what point what I wanted to do or who I thought I would be or what I could be. Um, my if our mom was, still living, I'm sure it would have been a lot more structured, right, Lavelle, and a
Yeah.
lot more laid out for us. But we didn't really have that, and my dad was just proud for me to go somewhere.
Yeah.
So not that he didn't care about academics, not that at all, but it just wasn't his experience at all in life. So
Right.
fast forward, the probably was long, but I just wanted to say I came back to TSU more to for myself, to be selfish. I
Right.
knew what I was leaving behind, and not necessarily behind, but I just couldn't drive down the street and go see my daddy or go see my grandmother. I knew that it would be me hitching a ride or somebody coming to pick me up.
Right.
But it made me stronger. It made me the person I am today. And from there, graduated Tennessee State, and I actually, which is pretty rare. I was working actually three jobs while I was in college. My my junior and senior year, I was working about three jobs. So I worked in retail. I was working at the Limited. I was a substitute teacher because, as I said at the beginning, I thought I was going into education. And at the time, my major was still education. And I was like, okay, I need to substitute teach. And then I was also, I did so many random jobs. I was like taking money at the club. I was doing all that stuff. But I
Right.
also worked in banking. So I was a teller at what we once knew as Union Planners Bank. And so I kind of rotated all of those three because I thought I was
Hold
grown. I
your,
got
hold
my
your thought. Hold your thought. Hold that thought, Stephanie. What we're gonna do is we're gonna have to do a part two of this. I knew it was gonna
own.
happen because there's so
Okay.
much to unpack, and this is something that we was gonna do a long time ago, and it just
Yeah.
fell into our lap to have this. So we're going to stop this, but we're going to continue on part two. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram. You see her information at the bottom there as well. Get ready for part 2 because I think it's going to get a whole lot more interesting because we ain't even really pulled the layers
Ooh,
back yet. So thank you for
yeah.
watching tonight. Stay tuned for part 2. Hey, you don't want to miss it. Real life with one love. That's all we're talking about. Real issues with real life.